Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the new home of power mining analysis. In today's episode, we've welcomed back John Belizaire from Soluna Holdings. This is one that we've been talking about extensively on the channel over the last few quarters. The share price has definitely started to take off in a big way on the backs of some very exciting news and developments since our last discussion. Now, before we get into all that, please take a second, smash the like button, you guys. Big help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join. And let us know in the comments section below if you're currently holding shares of Saluna, your thoughts on their strategy compared to the peers in the HPC and Bitcoin mining sector, and your thoughts in terms of Bitcoin price for the back half of 2024. Now, with that being said, let's get into today's interview. Okay, guys, so that's right. We've got the man of the hour, John Belizaire, the CEO of Soluna Holdings. Now, this is one we've been talking about for quite some time. It's so nice to finally see the market waking up to this story, this differentiated business model. John, looking forward to the discussion today, but thanks so much for making the time.
Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be here, gentlemen. It's always a pleasure to spend time not just talking about Soluna, but the overall market with you guys. So thanks for having me back on the show.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, you're most welcome. We've got our resident Bitcoin mining analyst, Anthony Power. We've had a busy day. We've done live, we've done interview, we've done it all. But right now we're talking all things Soluna. So John, can you give us a quick update? Just since our last discussion, there's been a number of big press releases, key developments, catalysts for the company. Can you give us a quick refresher?
Yeah, so I think the last time we spoke was right after our quarterly or just before. During that time, of course, we announced a very strong first quarter and end of year financials as the company continues to grow and scale and accumulate assets. We've performed well across all of our existing facilities. We also announced the signing of a definitive agreement for Project Kadi, our 166 megawatt facility that will be in the southeastern part of Texas. It's the next major project that we'll be building out. Since we spoke, we also announced that we signed a term sheet and we're reaching the final stages of a definitive agreement now for a $30 million investment in Project Dorothy 2, where we'll be building out that site as well, expanding or doubling the size of the Dorothy facility in Texas. Would love you guys to come and see that when it's taking off. And then just this week, we announced a strategic deal that we signed that allows us to launch the first batch of our GPUs in our Saluna cloud business, and that includes a good chunk of GPUs. I'm not going to say how many. You're gonna learn soon when we unleash them, and a $12.5 million credit facility, and a new capital partner at that subsidiary, and a new partner. It's in our 8Ks. I'll say it's HP Enterprise, one of the largest supercomputing and AI-focused companies in the world right now, is partnering with us to build out our cloud business and allow us to deliver this computing capacity in a sustainable way to enterprise customers. This is all a lot, and I think it's only been like a few weeks since we've spoken, but this has been a culmination of a series of activities we've been doing over the last 6 months. And over the course of the last year, all of our energy has been focused on building a very strong foundation for the company to scale. And as you can see, we've gotten a lot of foundation built out.
In terms of, the announcement with regards to the funding towards your HPC AI growth model there. I mean, obviously the news that came out with the CoreWeave deal sort of shook the market up really in terms from the Bitcoin mining space, and got a lot of CEOs probably thinking, what should we be doing now with our power Should we be
Right.
focusing on driving Bitcoin mining, or should we now start moving into HPC? Because it's clear that the guys in Wall Street, they look at the HPC as predictable, and so are you getting that feedback? Are you getting that feedback as well from the companies that the analysts supporting Saluna in terms of predictable rather than uncertainty to a certain extent with Bitcoin mining, maybe?
That's right. Most people understand the concept of selling a product or service on a contract for some period of time, and there's a market price for that product or service. And so you can project out what that looks like depending on how much capacity of that product or service you have. And one of the challenges that the market has had with Bitcoin mining focused companies is, is that revenue that they're projecting really predictable? There's shifts in the Bitcoin price and so forth that can affect it. And if you're in the prop mining business, primarily, that is true, right? Sometimes you can be making lots of money. Sometimes you can be making not so much money. And so it's a game of scale and, capital there. But if you have a business that can generate a repeatable course of revenue, less your costs, that profit could then be reinvested to expand that business. That is a well-known model for growth of a company. And so we have been focusing on adding that mixture. Well, you've seen that we've been adding lots of diversity in revenue in our business, right? We've got that 4-quadrant. And it's exciting to finally be sort of filling in the 4th quadrant. I always have it, the first 3 of them blue and 1's orange. And we're saying, that's coming. And now we're going to start filling in that blue part, right? So that is really for us about revenue diversification and clarity in terms of understanding how the business works going forward. I've often said that the key to our business is we're an infrastructure business. We're vertically integrated. We unlock power, and then we have multiple options on how we monetize that power. We're just adding another option, and it's one that's more predictable and more projectable, if you will, than others. And so we're pretty excited about adding that portion to our business.
From a timetable perspective, when do you expect revenues to start coming in from this from high performance computing?
So the goal that we have is once we release the GPUs that we have access to, they're being set up and configured now for us at the hosting facility. We think that'll come online here in the coming month as it starts to get hot in the summer. And then we're just going to go full tilt, trying to sell them with our HPE partners. And we expect that to take, over the course of the quarter, we'll start to ramp up and fill up that site. And once it's full, we'll be able to project out and update our financial projections and so forth of what that looks like and the mixture and whatnot. And
is this you mentioned about the one customer? Is this all about this one customer, or are you providing some on demand service?
Yeah. So the way it's designed is we for a 3-year period we buy the GPUs from through the partnership. They deploy them for us. We turn around and we sell them to customers. We expect to have 1 or more customer sign up for them. And as those customers sign up, depending on the cost for their tranche of the cluster that they're taking, that will allow us to project out based on their contract the revenues. And so once we turn those things on, we will be able to start showing revenue and projecting it. And we expect that over the course of the next quarter or 2.
In your presentation, have you included any revenue? Is the on-demand revenues, is that what this is about now, or is that or is this going to be additional to what's in your presentation, having just announced it?
The earnings power, if you're referring to the earnings power presentation we have on our website, there is no revenue from this business in there. So everything that we add will be incremental to that.
So the differentiator about the sort of the deal with the CoreWeave is the fact that they've got a hyperscaler who wants to buy power. But most of the miners are doing what you're doing there, is going out to the market and then providing the ability for customers to come in and utilize that service and pay for that service. Then you'll have effectively like a utilization rate of your HPC power, basically, you know, and you might be achieving 80, 90, 100% or whatever it is a day, you know.
Exactly.
But if you have big customers, then obviously that percentage.
We won't do on demand in the sense that people show up and they can buy it for a few hours or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah,
we'll do contract, and then yes, you'll have a utilization over that period of time on contract. But one thing to understand, and this is really important for the market to understand, is that this is the on-ramp phase of this business. So our goal as a company, as this new cloud business, is to really focus on two key areas. One is we will build sites and we will buy, NVIDIA equipment and whatnot, plug it in, provide those GPUs as a service, plus a host of other software and services to customers, because most customers don't want to do what I just said. They don't want to buy machines and have to figure out. They just want to build AI models and start developing and so forth. And so that's why this has become a very attractive business. The other business inside of cloud that we're building is, remember, we've talked about our Helix data centers. We're building a whole set of innovative facilities. This first tranche of GPUs is not in a Helix facility. It's in an HPE facility. This is going to be inside of a Saluna facility. And there we can do both, just like we're doing on the Bitcoin side. We can buy machines, plug them in, rent them out, or we can have large companies like a CoreWeave or Lambda or some of these other players that are getting quite big, but don't actually own any of their own infrastructure. They need someplace, power and space to plug in that equipment. And we have hundreds of megawatts of places that they can go build that out. And then we have 2 gigawatts of pipeline that will essentially unlock hundreds of megawatts more of power that we can use in those two ways. So we always try to design the businesses such that they have maximum flexibility on how we can monetize the business.
I mean, just to clarify that there, because that's the question I was having read the presentation, and a number of people came back to me when I was talking about Saluna in a couple of Spaces meetings about the 2 gigawatts. And I mean, no disrespect to Saluna, but 2 gigawatts is an enormous amount of power, and not even the biggest miners that in our tech have that level of power. So Core Scientific have got 1.2 gigawatts of power in total. Marathon have got just over a gigawatt. And you've mentioned 2 gigawatts, and I'm assuming the way I interpreted it was that there was potentially 2 gigawatts available. In this type of the stranded power that you're picking up bit by bit, and you could be the company that gets it all, or one of a number of companies that gets it all. Like, it wasn't clear as to whether it was your power, or could potentially be your power, or was it a reality? That was a confusion, I think, from my and other people's point of view.
I have had that question, and what we do inside Saluna is we take our whole pipeline. We look at the stages that they're in. So a pipeline is a project that we're either have negotiated with the customer or a power partner, or doing the analysis on, and we haven't actually bid to them, hey, we want to buy your power at this, and this is the price, and so forth. Or it's like in the ERCOT pipeline and doing studies and so forth, and we have a term sheet, but we haven't announced it yet. So there's different levels. Yeah. So typically what you'll do is, and we put this in our queue every day, we value the pipeline and so forth. So we basically take the whole pipeline, we weight it down by the probability that we can monetize it over a certain period of time. And then we add up the total megawatts that we can unlock over a certain period of time. That's how we come up with the 2 gigawatts. So in reality, our pipeline is bigger than 2 gigawatts. What we announce is what we can visibly see that we're going to unlock with relative certainty over the next couple of years. And so every year, as you can see, we build a business plan, and we say, how many of those megawatts are we going to unlock this year? right? And it's usually around, I'm going to say around 3 to 400 megawatts. It seems like it's getting bigger now. I think, my team's going to watch this, but I think my team's been, anyway, I'm not going to say anything. But my point is that we unlock a lot of it every year, and it's in the
Yeah, I
hundreds.
mean, it's fair to say.
Cadi, right? You've seen Cadi so far. That was last year. We unlocked 166, and now it's fully contracted. And we're not just sitting around and just like doing nothing, right? There's more projects that are coming online. And the nice thing about it is we don't have to go, some of the other ones, folks you've quoted, they go around and they're buying projects or they're like hunting for them and so forth. This is in projects or and assets and power plants with power partners that we already have relationships with. So we just call them and say, okay, now we finished working on this one. Let's go to the next one. And it's just, doing that. I mean, I had
you're building a track record with these energy partners, so they know that, when they have a deal with you, it's everything's meets
correct.
the requirements, and so growing reputational, by doing this in the right way. So
and then the deals are just cookie cut, right? So we'll go into a partner, for example, and we'll say, we want to do these 4 projects, right? And we'll lock up exclusivity to, let's say, 3 of them, because we do our analysis and we determine 3 of them are strong enough or the best for us. And then we sort them by certain criteria, and then we say we're going to start with this one. Let's now do all the documentation and negotiate and get it all set up, and then that becomes a shovel ready project. And then we start building that one. And then we come back to them and say, now we want to go to project 2. And then we just start. There's nothing to do. We already did all the analysis. They know what the deal is. We're just doing the deal again for the second project. So to the folks out there looking at our gigawatt pipeline, it's not like I can turn all 2 gigawatts of it right now and start building it. But it's not like I can't build 2 gigawatts.
It's
not
not
like I'm never
unreasonable. It's not
I am
unreasonable to
eventually
assume.
going to build 2 gigawatts. If I have the capital time, I'm going to build all of it. And they expect
over a period of time. It's not unreasonable to assume that. Yeah.
Exactly right. And I can pull some of those forward if I get like, a slug of capital and a customer that wants to partner with me and build out a Helix facility to put a bunch of GPUs in, then I can pull a project forward. I call the partner and say, I want to start developing that. So it's all part of the core asset of the business. In fact, to give you a broader perspective, if you take a step back, you've got Soluna Holdings that is the parent company there. And then you've really got 3 companies underneath. There's really a 4th, which is like services and OEM, if you see it, but it's 3 key companies, right? One is the energy company. That's the one that goes out, develops these projects, gets them to a point where you have access to power and land, which is like the rich asset that you need for any computing project, right? And once you get access to that power and land site, right, you now need to figure out how to monetize that. And then we have 2 other businesses now. One was our Bitcoin business. That was our primary business. And inside there, we've got prop mining and hosting inside of that business. In fact, we have a name for it now. Saluna Digital is the name of like the Bitcoin business. And then you have now Soluna Cloud, which is going to be focused on, GPU clouds and co-location, right? So the 2 arms in there kind of doing the similar things. So those 3 companies work together, in a synergistic, symbiotic way, if you will, to maximize profitability and cash flows for the parent. That's the business that we're in.
I appreciate you walking through that, because we had a few questions about, okay, how does Soluna Cloud fit into the bigger picture? How are these different projects fitting in? My question for you, John, and really interesting about that energy pipeline, because obviously that's critically important right now for investors, whether you're retail or Wall Street. My question for you is about those Helix clusters. We heard from Core Scientific that they're going to kind of separate their HPC versus their mining. Will we see these Helix clusters in different projects, or are these going to be standalone data centers, or how should we think about the configuration within all of these different Caddy and Sophie projects?
very great question and great insight for the folks out there. So if you fly over one of these projects that gets unlocked, right? So there's hundreds of let's say you fly over a 200 megawatt project. Soluna has flexibility in how to monetize that project. We could take 100 megawatts of it and build our Dorothy style Bitcoin data centers there, and then take the other 100 megawatts and build our Helix style AI based data center in the same location. And by the time we're done, you fly over, there's two different businesses running on those 200 megawatts. Or we could say on this particular project, we're going to do 200 megawatts based on a deal that we do, a demand and so forth, of a full Helix site that just is AI. The beauty of our model is we can pretty much do anything we want for every project that we develop, and then we choose which avenue based on cost of capital, revenue opportunity, and overall mixture of our business, where we want to maintain a certain level of revenue certainty and resiliency around our business. We will determine how much of each project we do A versus B. That's really the approach that we're going to take. And so you may see a mixture of those. I know that some of our folks or colleagues, or depending on the deals that they're doing, are converting previous facilities or taking down old buildings and then putting up these larger monoliths. Those opportunities are also available to us because, as I said, we have a business that all it does is makes power. It just finds power, generates that power, and then the two other businesses can get involved in monetizing that power.
And because you spend so much time on the ground layer of this and building that template that you can now emulate and use as kind of a cookie cutter, is a lot of that expertise in-house, or have you partnered with specific contractors that say would do your Bitcoin mining facility and then one that would do your Helix facilities? Or how should we think about the development and the actual construction of these different setups?
They would be totally different. These are these are separate companies, right? Like we will build out expertise that has AI expertise, AI design and development expertise in the cloud business. And on the Bitcoin side, we're fairly baked, right? We're basically in a cookie cutter mode right now. Every time we build a new facility, we are making enhancements to the design, but it's on our base template, and we have a process for bidding out these projects and so forth, and we build them out. So D2 will be almost an exact replica of D1. Kadi, we're going to make some enhancements to optimize the speed with which we can build the site. Some of the power design will be different. We do that every time we do a new greenfield development, not an expansion. We take opportunities to optimize the design. For Helix, that is a completely new blueprint. Our focus there is to design a whole new facility that is going to take advantages of all the new innovations on data center design. And we're getting a lot of this insight from all of the work we've been doing with our partnerships on the AI side. Supercomputing has learned a lot about what it takes to build big iron that gets really hot. And direct liquid cooling is the current state of the art. We're going to have that in those facilities. We are working on some pretty cool cooling approaches, mechanical cooling of the building, that's going to allow us to do this. And one thing that is unique to Soluna, when we go after these new markets, we always start from scratch and ask the question again, do you really have to build a data center the old way for this new environment where we're going to be putting it, especially if all it does is one thing? And we are going to be working with one of the best data center design firms to help us with the design of Helix. We've already kicked off that work, and it's pretty exciting. They're pretty excited because they've seen lots of ways to enhance this design. and they're excited to be working with us to improve upon it. And that's where we'll build new expertise, contractors, implementation experts, and so forth within the Soluna Cloud business. And we're getting, I mean, we get so many inbound calls now for power and space. So if we had a Helix building spinning right now, it would be full. Like that's kind of like the type of environment we're in right now. And so that's what excites us. We would not only be able to deploy that, generate, revenue around it, but we would bring an innovation to the data center market. And that's what we're excited about.
What about the strategies that Core Scientific used with CoreWeave, in the fact that you've got access to the power? They didn't have access to any capital, so they only looked for customers who were prepared to bring in the capital up front. Is that something that you think actually, we've got some of those, the requirements there? Should we not be looking to say, if we get a parcel of power of 200 megawatts, look for a hyperscaler company like that to come in and say, pay the capital up front, we'll build the facility for you, and then we'll pay that capital over the first few years of the revenue coming through delivering that service? Because I mean, it's sort of groundbreaking contracts, and it's fully open and disclosed now. People know exactly what the numbers are, and surely it must have garnered a lot of interest from other miners that are in the space. And one thing that you guys have just articulated is the fact that you've got the access to the power over a period of time now. It's just a case of getting the projects put together. So it would seem that you're ideally placed to maybe have those conversations. But I suppose, I'm not trying to say, you and Core Scientific are at the same size in terms of the size of the company, but, it is, this industry moves very quickly. And, less than a year ago, none of the miners were speaking about HPC at all. So, they're all, 80% of the mining community now, Bitcoin miners, are looking at this as a way of a different business. Yes, you've got the pure play miners still. There's about 4 of them left now. And they're probably some of the biggest miners. The Marathons and the Riots and the Clean Sparks won't be going HPC way, but everybody else seems to have sort of at least started the process of looking at. And if you've got access to up to 2 gigawatts of power over a period of time, would that be not something that you would be contemplating, doing on a bigger scale? Or are you happy with the size of the projects that you're doing at the moment, with the size of your organization? Let's not run before we can walk type aspect.
Yeah. So 2 things are true. One is we do take things slower, and we're very thoughtful and methodical about how we approach things. But we're also trying not to limit the company this early on in terms of the different ways in which we can monetize it and generate business for the cloud. So we had a couple of goals for ourselves. How do we get started in the business quickly with a partner that has expertise, so we don't have to build that in-house, that is scalable with us? So that's what we just announced. The next is, how do we develop projects? How do we develop a Helix facility that can become our blueprint for these different environments? And then the third is, how are we going to build out the co-location, or what would be the equivalent of a hosting business on the GPU side? And that means partnering with some very large players who need access to power and space for the large orders of GPUs that they're putting in place. And that does inure to us lots of potential to do those types of deals. And you can guess that we're working on them.
Good. Yeah, that's good to hear.
Now, John, in terms of upcoming catalysts, I know you've just alluded to a few of those points. You've obviously been super busy just in the last month since we spoke. What should we keep an eye on here, and what can we count on in terms of the self-mining growth this year as well, for those watching that are more Bitcoin focused than HPC?
So on the Bitcoin side, as we've said, we're only do Bitcoin mining deals if they're primarily joint ventures. We do have a joint venture partner in Dorothy D1B. They've shown interest in expanding with us. We've also had more inbound from some of the larger miners that want to do some similar kind of constructs. You're going to see a shift in the marketplace where new equipment is coming into these larger players because of the cost of that equipment. They'll want to host and maintain those themselves, but they're also going to be replacing, I'm talking about, many exahashes of equipment that they can't just dump into the market. And so there's going to be a lot of demand to plug those let's call recent generation equipment into facilities with good power prices and so forth. And that's going to drive a tremendous amount of business for us. And that what allows us to build our pipeline for D2 and beyond. And so we've been in discussions with folks, and there's lots of interest in doing that. And then to the extent that there's new capital, because as Bitcoin finds its footing, if you will, it's been in a wild ride the last few weeks. There seems to be a lot of interest to participate in the growth of that asset in the second half of this year. And we get folks constantly sort of pinging us and saying, we have capital, we don't know how to do this stuff, we want to plug stuff in, and we don't want to do hosting, we want to do self-mining, would you want to partner with us? So we remain open to those, but we don't have any specific plans to grow that business. The earnings power you see is sort of the projection on terms of mixture for us at the current moment.
And obviously the way you just explained that, then it seems like the hosting is still quite viable going forward as a business for you. It seems to be that my question was going to be, is that with the hash price at the moment, is demand sustainable for hosting? Because it's not just about having the hash price, the energy cost, and then you've got to have a margin and pay overheads. So the cost now of mining, as opposed to what you're getting in revenues, not you personally, but the revenues available, that the margins are getting slimmer and slimmer. So are you seeing any change in demand, or are you seeing actually no, it's the other way around? We're getting more inquiries about.
That's right. So the way to look at it is the folks who are big. Again, we only contract with the larger, more creditworthy partners. You really have to look at their business and think about what happens, to their business as the the hash price and so forth takes shape. They only have two choices, right? Turn off the machines or replace the machines, right, with newer equipment and more efficient equipment. You start the ones that have capital, and they've been getting access to capital to do that. Those machines will arrive at some point. They will replace the current plugged-in machines. What's going to happen to the hundreds of thousands of pieces of equipment that, in the right power place, can actually still generate a tremendous amount of margin? Well, it turns out that they still want to plug them in somewhere. And guess what? We're really good at doing that.
Yeah, and your energy price gives you a competitive advantage against pretty much every miner, maybe except Cypher at the moment, because they're the only ones that are under 3%.
Exactly. That's right. And so we can offer them a good rate that gives them
and get your margin as well.
And in some cases we can do some sort of profit share that allows us to participate and do a structure that makes sense for both sides. So that is a viable business for us. It allows us to continue to grow and project growth in that part of our business.
Hey, another question we've asked a few of the CEOs that are participating in both HPC and Bitcoin mining, John, is kind of that break-even equilibrium tipping point. Do you guys have any internal modeling? The number we've heard is anywhere from 100, 111, 110, 113, as to where if Bitcoin hits $110,000 US, it is then more profitable to start pursuing Bitcoin opportunities as opposed to HPC. Do you guys have any internal discussions, modeling numbers being thrown around that validate or don't?
Yeah, we don't do that. Honestly, if someone's doing that, that means they're not clear about their business plan and their strategy, right? Because if you think about it, as I said, we're pretty crisp about our business, right? Our business is we generate power, right? We solve curtailment, so that gives us access to power, and then we monetize it in two ways. It's always two ways, right? It's always going to be the Bitcoin side and the AI side. Some projects will be AI, some projects will be Bitcoin. It's not this sort of like, you're constantly sort of shifting your business based on which one is more profitable. I think that's defocusing as a company. It doesn't allow you to build expertise and become really good at a thing, especially as the thing that we're doing is customer facing, right? We can't say, oh, customer that's doing AI, we're not servicing you today because we're going to go, sell some, do some Bitcoin stuff. That's not the business we're building. The business we're building is to be the best in class for each of the different segments that we're in. So we're going to build best in class hosting. We're going to provide a quality service to our customers that solves a problem for them. They have machines that still have a lot of life and profitability in them. They can plug them into our sites, and we will build out sites that delivers that on a consistent basis across the contract term. And on the AI side, if you're buying GPUs from us as a service, you will receive top quality service doing that. And if you're a customer that's deploying into our facilities as a co-location or hosting environment, you're going to get that, and it's not going to suddenly change. So we don't do that modeling because it's not our strategy. Our strategy is to scale the business across a variety of different revenue streams or business segments, if you will, and keep doing that.
And your business inherently has that flexibility because you've got the cookie cutter, smaller projects. You can kind of, I guess, be more agile on the fly based on the current market conditions, just inherently with your business, eh?
Exactly. So if my business was like some other folks, not going to name names, you buy equipment, you plug it in and try to make as much profit out of it. You get access to a building with space and power, and you have both and that equipment could be Bitcoin or AI, and you drop that equipment into a building with a host. One day you might turn off the the Bitcoin, run the AI, vice versa, that sort of thing. You can certainly do that, but that I don't see that as a long-term sustainable business. It's somewhat more of an arbitrage hedging strategy or something like that. We're trying to build a long-term sustaining business with cash flows you can count on over a long period of time. And we're trying to build a business that is really building a core competency in doing certain things that are hard, making them look easy, and delivering a quality service to customers.
Just going back to Dorothy 2,
Yes.
can you give us an update on sort of like the funding is obviously about to be in place and everything like that from a timetable for breaking ground and how long is that going to take? And I know in the plan you've got revenues coming in Q4, but just sort of like give us some more realistic in terms of breaking ground and start the build that process.
Yeah, so Dorothy 2, knock on wood, should start breaking ground here in July. We are really in the final stages of the documentation, typical back and forth legal stuff. And once that happens, we'll get a notice to proceed, which will allow us to start drawing down capital and break ground. So you'll know when it happens. We're gonna probably do some sort of video, tour. And I told the team to order me a golden shovel so I can go, put the first or something.
And the hard hats, the Riot hard hats were a
and
very nice touch.
that.
So you may want a couple Saluna hats out there.
Yeah, we'll get that. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. We'll do that.
There you go.
And then the goal is to go as fast as we can. We're starting in the hot months, so that's challenging. And try to get the first energization late this year, if not early. Yep.
And with regards to Project Catty, in terms of like, have you got ERCOT approval yet, or is that something still to be awaited on? And sort of like just in your own sort of like timetable mind at the moment, where does that sit, and where do you see that sort of project getting off the ground as well?
Yeah, I would put Kadi kicking in the tail end, starting construction of that sort of the tail end of this year, maybe early next year. I would say we have to finish up the land lease. ERCOT will give us approval at some point. We'll start marketing it to our investors to capitalize the first 83 megawatts of that. We're building it in 2 phases. So the goal is our sort of internal goal is to uh, uh, have 2 projects under construction at the same time. Let's put it that way.
Excellent. I think that's pretty much it from our side, John. Great explanation of the projects, the business model, the inner workings of all these different blueprints that you guys have been putting together over previous quarters. Obviously, that's really coming to fruition. The market's waking up to it. We're seeing a lot of investor attention. So this is one we're continuing to watch. Excited to have you back soon. I'll give it to you for any closing thoughts, but very insightful discussion as always.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on the show. Again, I'm always this is always a fun time for me to share more about our business. I want to thank the folks that are sending you guys the questions and getting them out to you. And I just want folks to stay tuned. You know, we have a lot more news coming out about great things that we're doing, and we've got a great team here at Saluna, and we're building a great business. So thank you for all the folks who have been patient with us and giving us time to rebuild the business. And welcome to the folks who have just joined and accumulating our stock and want to learn more about the story. And you can get the updates right here on this show.
Thanks, John. The timing of this has been sort of perfect. I mean, I've had so many DMs about Saluna. I'd have to say they're sort of like in the top 3 or 4 of the miners from a response perspective at the moment. So the time of this podcast will be good going out as well. There'll be a lot of interest, I would imagine.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys, and appreciate the time.
Take care. If you're still watching, you guys, feel free to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you have any of those questions for John in our next podcast, feel free to leave them below. We'll see you guys tomorrow.